My phone buzzed once, then went still. A text from my mother lit up the screen. "Elena, you don't need to come back. Some places aren't meant for you." No explanation, no call, just that line sharp as glass. I stared at it while the snow outside my window kept falling in slow, silent flakes. My coffee went cold in my hand. It was Thanksgiving week, the one time I always tried to make it home no matter how busy work got. The time I told myself maybe this year would be different. But I guess they'd already started the dinner without me. I opened my family group chat. Photos were flying in candles, turkey wine glasses raised high. Everyone tagged, everyone smiling. My name wasn't there. For a second, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she sent that text to the wrong person. Then I saw the caption under one of the photos, "Only Family." That one hit harder than I want to admit. I scrolled up, reading her message again. It wasn't anger that came first, it was this deep, hollow quiet. The kind that sits right behind your ribs and doesn't move. You know that feeling when someone doesn't just shut you out of a room, but out of belonging itself. That's what it felt like. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter. The hum of the fridge was the only sound left in the apartment. Outside, the city lights were flickering across wet pavement. I could picture them, my mother at the head of the table, my father carving turkey, my brother Ryan cracking another stupid joke, everyone laughing like nothing ever happened. They probably told themselves I was too difficult, too sensitive to Elena. And maybe they were right. I'd stopped playing the part years ago, the quiet fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who always paid for the takeout and swallowed the insult. I walked to the window and watched a couple across the street carrying grocery bags, their breath fogging in the cold. The smell of pine candles drifted up from the hallway. It should have felt cozy, but all I could think was how far I drifted from what family was supposed to mean. I picked up my phone again. I almost typed back something, anything but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I whispered it out loud, half to myself, half to the empty room. "You said I didn't belong there. Fine. Then quieter, steadier. Like a promise I'll build something you'll never forget." The city outside went still for a beat, as if it had heard me. If you've ever been shut out by your own family, you'll know that moment, the one where pain turns into something colder, cleaner. The start of a plan. When I was little, I used to draw houses instead of people. While other kids filled pages with stick figures, mine were covered in walls, windows, and staircases. I didn't think much of it back then, it was just how my brain worked. I liked the way things fit together, the quiet order of it all. My parents didn't see it that way. To them, creativity was a phase. Ryan, my younger brother, was the real achiever. He could skip homework, charm his teachers, and still get praised for potential. Me, I got called too serious for my age. I still remember the night it all started to shift. I was 15. I'd stayed up late in my room sketching a greenhouse I wanted to design for our backyard glass walls, sunlight filtering through ivy, a small reading corner inside. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. The next morning, I slid the paper across the breakfast table like it was a gift. "I think I could actually build this someday," I said, proud and nervous. My dad barely looked up from his newspaper. My mom laughed softly. "Sweetheart, that's ambitious. But you might want to focus on something useful." Ryan leaned over, glanced at the drawing, and grinned. "Looks like a fish tank for plants." They laughed together. I pretended to smile. That night, I found the paper in the trash under a pile of coffee grounds. That was the first time I learned silence could protect you. After that, I stopped showing them what I made. I got into a design program in college on scholarship. When I told Mom, she said, "Architecture. That's a man's world, honey. You're too sensitive for that." But I went anyway. I worked 3 jobs, slept on a futon in a drafty apartment, and lived off black coffee and bagels from the dollar rack. I thought maybe when they saw the degree, they'd finally see me. They didn't come to graduation. Ryan had a business trip, and Mom said, "Your dad's knees are bad for long flights." Still, I sent them photos of my first office space, a 1-room studio with a folding table, 2 monitors, and a plant I couldn't keep alive. Mom texted back, "Looks small, but cute." I learned to stop needing their applause. But even when I tried to move on, their voices followed me. Ryan loved to call during family dinners on speakerphone bragging about his real estate ventures. My mother would always laugh, "You and your brother are both in buildings." How funny I'd smile and hang up the old ache settling in again. See, that's the thing about being the invisible one. You start building your whole life quietly foundation. First, brick by brick, until one day you realize you've built something solid while they're still talking about air. And all it takes is one insult, one push too far to make you see what your silence is really worth. The night it all snapped, I was sitting at my parents' long oak table, the one that had hosted every holiday dinner since I was a kid. The smell of roasted lamb and garlic butter hung in the air, the kind of scent that used to mean home. Not anymore. Ryan was at the head of the conversation as usual. He was talking about his new venture, a luxury bar he planned to open downtown. Everyone leaned in like he was giving a TED Talk. My mother looked at him like he'd just invented electricity. I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting my food into tiny, neat squares. So Ryan said, turning toward me, construction. What do you think of my location idea, Midtown, right across from the new plaza? I glanced up. It's a risky spot, I said. High rent, low foot traffic after 9. You'd need a strong concept to keep it afloat. The room went quiet. Then Mom's voice, sharp smiling, cut through it. "Elena, could you not? Your brothers worked hard on this. You always find something negative to say." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I wasn't being negative. I was giving Ryan interrupted with a smirk. "She just doesn't get it, Mom. Not everyone wants to live in spreadsheets and blueprints." A few of our relatives laughed. One even clapped him on the shoulder. My chest tightened. "I'm just saying," I tried again, but Mom's hand lifted slightly as if to silence me. "Sweetheart, if you can't be supportive, maybe you should just enjoy your meal." That tone, the one that sounds polite to outsiders but cuts you clean on the inside. The rest of the table moved on without me. Ryan talked about his investors who I was sure were imaginary. My dad nodded like it all made perfect sense. My aunt poured more wine. I sat there small again, 15 years old, and watching my dream go into the trash all over again. When I finally stood up, the chair legs scraped hard against the tile. The noise made everyone look. I said, "You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't belong here." Ryan chuckled low and mean. "Guess that's finally sinking in." Mom's voice came calm and cold. "Elena, if you can't behave like family, then maybe you shouldn't come next time." I felt the words hit like a door slamming. I didn't say another thing. I just walked out my heels, clicking through the hallway I'd once memorized as a child. In the reflection on the glass door, I saw them still talking, still laughing as if I'd never been there. When I got to my car, my phone buzzed. A new text from Mom. "Don't come back until you learn how to respect your brother." I sat there in the cold screen glowing in my lap, breath fogging the windshield. That was the moment the warmth finally died, and in its place something colder started to build, something sharper, quieter, unbreakable. The first few days after that dinner, I didn't speak to anyone. Not my parents, not Ryan, not even Lydia, my business partner, and the one person who knew how to read my silences. I went through the motions at work, client meetings, project calls, endless site visits, but inside, everything felt muted like I was walking underwater. Then one morning, I got an email that changed everything. A real estate group was selling a corner lot downtown, a wide piece of land, old brick walls still standing from a failed restaurant. The address stopped me cold. It was the same block Ryan had bragged about at dinner, Midtown across from the plaza, the one he'd called his spot. I sat staring at the screen until Lydia poked her head into my office. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. I turned the monitor toward her. "Do you remember that location Ryan wanted for his bar?" She squinted at the listing. "Yeah." "Why?" "Because it's available," I said quietly, "and I can afford it." She raised an eyebrow. "You're thinking about buying it." I didn't answer. Instead, I printed the listing, folded it neatly, and slid it into my notebook. That night, while the rest of the city was closing up shop, I drove down there. The street was half empty, neon signs flickering from the diner across the road. I parked and walked the perimeter, my boots crunching on gravel hands, shoved deep in my coat pockets. The air smelled faintly of rain and old metal. I looked up at the exposed beams, the broken windows, the faint outline of what used to be a sign. I could almost see it already: glass walls, hanging gardens, a courtyard filled with light, a place that didn't need anyone's permission. By the end of the week, the offer was in. By the next month, it was mine. Construction started slow, then all at once. Early mornings at the site steel groaning under welders' sparks, the taste of coffee turning bitter in my mouth as I reviewed blueprints at sunrise. Lydia would meet me with 2 cups, her hair tied up, grinning through exhaustion. "You're out building your ghosts," she said one morning, watching the first panels of glass rise into place. Maybe she was right. Every line I drew, every foundation poured, it was like rewriting a memory that used to hurt. A year passed in that rhythm. Work, build, refine. No family calls, no messages, just the steady sound of progress. When it was done, I stood inside the atrium at dawn, sunlight pouring through the glass ceiling. The air was cool and clean, echoing off marble floors. My reflection looked back at me, older, steadier, finally whole. We called it the Atrium by Voss. It wasn't spite, it was statement. My name, my work, standing tall on the skyline. A week before opening night, Lydia handed me a newspaper article. "Look," she said. "They're calling it the city's new landmark." I smiled, a real one this time. They said I'd never be invited again, and soon they'd be begging to get in. The night of the opening felt like standing at the edge of a new life. The atrium gleamed under soft amber light, every surface polished to reflection. Strings of jazz floated from the live band near the bar, mixing with the low hum of laughter and glasses clinking. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like arrival. Guests poured in. Clients, friends, investors. I smiled, shook hands, accepted congratulations that sounded almost unreal. Lydia moved through the crowd in a green silk dress, managing everything with her usual quiet grace. "You did it?" she whispered when she passed me a glass of champagne. I started to answer, but then the sound hit me, a man's voice, too loud, too familiar. "Ryan." I turned toward the entrance. There he was, tux slightly undone. Mom right behind him, holding her clutch like a weapon. My father followed a step behind, looking uncomfortable but silent as ever. For a second, I thought I might be imagining them. But then Ryan's laugh rolled across the marble floor, the same cocky sound that used to fill our family dinners. "Guess word travels fast," Lydia murmured beside me. They weren't on the guest list. I knew that. Every name had passed through my hands personally. At the reception desk, the hostess smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have a reservation under Voss." Ryan frowned, his voice rising. "Check again. It's for the Voss family. This is our name on the building, isn't it?" Margaret stepped forward, already irritated. "We were told this was a private family event." "I'm Mrs. Voss." The hostess glanced toward me, unsure. I set down my glass and walked over my heels, echoing against the floor. The room seemed to hush as I came closer. "Good evening," I said softly. Mom turned. For a heartbeat, she didn't recognize me. Hair swept back, white blazer eyes level. Then her mouth tightened. "Elena." Ryan smirked. "So this is your project, huh, cute? Thought you'd be working on something smaller." I smiled back. "It used to be small. Now it's standing." He looked around, unimpressed, pretending confidence that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, I think we deserve a table. We're family, right?" I nodded slightly to the hostess. "Please take them to the public lounge downstairs. It's walk-in only." Ryan blinked. What Mom's tone sharpened. "We're your family, Elena." I held her gaze. "You told me not to come back. I just kept my promise." Silence stretched between us. I could hear the soft piano in the background, the hum of people pretending not to stare. Ryan's jaw clenched. "You think this makes you better than us?" I stepped closer, close enough that my reflection filled his eyes. "No," I said quietly. "It just makes me free." Then I turned to the hostess. "If they'd like to stay, make sure they pay for their drinks." Their faces froze, shock, shame, disbelief all at once. I walked away before any of them could answer the click of my heels, fading into the music. Lydia met me halfway across the room. They came uninvited, she whispered. Exactly, I said. Just like always. Later that night, the crowd thinned out. The music softened, drifting through the marble halls like a secret. I slipped away to the upper terrace heels in one hand, champagne glass in the other. From up there, I could see the whole city stretched beneath me, lights blinking like tiny heartbeats. Down below, through the glass roof, I caught a glimpse of Ryan and my parents still at the bar. They sat awkwardly stiff smiles, pretending nothing had happened. They didn't see me watching. For a long time, I just stood there breathing in the cold night air. It smelled like rain and steel and something else, freedom maybe. My phone buzzed, a text from Lydia. You okay? They're still downstairs. I typed back, let them be, they'll figure it out. I leaned on the railing, tracing my finger along the cool glass. The reflections shimmered me, the city and the building I'd built from every bruise they left behind. A year ago, I was standing outside their house, too afraid to knock. Now they were standing outside mine, waiting for permission to come in. Funny how that works. I thought about calling Mom, about saying something gentle, something that would make her understand. But then I remembered the text she sent. Some places aren't meant for you. Maybe she was right. Maybe that house wasn't. Behind me, the automatic door slid open. Lydia stepped out, coat draped over her arm. They're leaving, she said softly. I nodded. Good. She handed me another glass, her smile small but warm. So, what now? I looked back down at the glowing letters above the entrance. The Atrium by Voss. My name, my work, my peace. I think I said I finally stopped building things to be invited into. From now on, I build them to stand on their own. Lydia clinked her glass against mine. To that. We stood there for a moment, two silhouettes against the skyline. Then I turned toward the elevator, ready to go home. My phone buzzed one last time, an unknown number. A message. Your place is beautiful. I didn't know. Mom, I smiled. Set the phone face down on the railing and left it there for the night. Because some stories don't need replies. If you've ever had to build your own peace because the place you came from couldn't hold you, trust me, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.